I had no idea that when I decided to honor the Fae for Midsummer, that it was going to take me down this rabbit hole that has been absolutely magical and filled with unexpected surprises. Fairies have been with me since I was a child, and I remember playing with them in the woods behind my grandfather's house. They were also a part of the beginning of my magic. I called on them to help me with some of my very first enchantments. So I've always had a relationship with them. And when I decided to honor them this midsummer, I didn't expect there to be a whole lot that I would learn. Boy, I couldn't have been more wrong. It all started when I decided I wanted to make a fairy door for midsummer to honor the Fae. I called my sponsor, and she was just as excited as I to start these fairy doors. She showed up with rocks and sticks and plenty of little embellishments for our fairy doors. I originally got the idea for a fairy door while I was working on a different project, and I saw these on Amazon and they were only like $1.50. And I thought, those look like fairy doors. They would be perfect for one. And that's where it all started. Because they are made of wood, I knew that the paint would be soaked up by the wood. So I put on 2 coats of gesso before I started painting mine. But if you don't have gesso, then just put down your color. But it may take a couple of coats because it will soak up the paint. I ended up using a green gray because I wanted it to have a natural look to the door. And then I also wanted to antique it. So I took some floating medium and added that to my acrylic paint. And I wanted a dark color, and my brown wasn't dark enough. So I added a little bit of black and got it to the right shade that I wanted. Now the floating medium is going to make the paint transparent, and then you can wipe it onto the project that you want to antique, and it'll come out transparent, and you can manipulate the paint to where you want it. While I was antiquing, Laura was over in her section making masterpieces, and she had brought with her some wired crystals that were so beautiful, and she got them, I believe, at Michael's. They were a clearance sale. It didn't occur to me till later that I should have been keeping track of what she was making hers out of so that I could show you those. Laura had Googled some fairy images and copied them for me on paper, and I chose one to put on my fairy door and use some carbon paper to trace it onto the door. I can't say this enough. If you've got somebody that you're super close to, get together, make some magical crafts, and hang out together and talk magic. There's nothing better. I had gotten a lot of new art supplies for my birthday, and Laura was trying some of them out, and she tried the foil that I have, and it was her first time using it, and she put it on the sun that she painted on her first fairy door. And I don't know if she liked it. I loved it. I like the effect of it, and it was her first time. But Laura's cool. Like, even if she wasn't thrilled with it, she would still be okay with it. Me, I have my ego is so terrible. I've always got to put it in check. It'll take me 20 hours just to put gold on this fairy door. When she finished her first fairy door, she moved on to making a second one while I was still on my first one and not even close to being finished. And it turned out amazing. And I really wish that I would have kept track of everything she used. But basically, she just used a base, and then she put sticks for a door and some stones and some moss and stuff that she had brought with her. And it turned out incredible. While Laura was over there making masterpieces, I was still on my first one. and had started to embellish it. I had filled the logo in with the gold, and then I antiqued a little bit of it so you could see the gold better. And then I started to put some green aventurine around the door to make it look like a brick. And because fairies love crystals, I also took a piece of crystal off of the wire that she had brought with the crystals on it and made it into a doorknob, but it didn't seem right to me. So then I added a little round aventurine crystal to the door, and I loved it. I loved the way it turned out, but it still needed something, and that was going to drive me crazy the rest of the afternoon. When Laura finally showed me the first door finished, I realized that I had an idea, and her first door turned out beautiful. It was absolutely magical and everything a fairy would ever want. The end result of that door was incredible. And when she started on the second one, I can't believe how fast she put this together. And originally it was all going to be one, and then she ended up making two. But then it gave me the idea from the first one that she had done with the extra embellishments that she brought, that I really loved the way it looked like a tree. But I wanted mine to have a little bit more bling. And so I curled up the ends to give this a tree look. And then I took a piece of the wire crystals and I wrapped that around the tree to make it as one. And I really loved the way it looked. And here are the finished fairy doors. Or so I thought. I'll tell you about that in a minute. I placed my door on the altar for midsummer, and after the solstice, I will put it in a special place in my apartment on the wall. I haven't decided where yet, though. And when I thought I was done, this morning my son came in and told me that he found this little crystal on the stairs when he came back from paying some bills. And I believe that that was a gift from the fairies. So I couldn't decide where exactly was I going to put this, because apparently it needed to be on the door, and I had already gotten something for the doorknob. And I thought, well, maybe up there. No, that didn't look right to me. And then I looked down at the emblem, and she had her hands out to hold something, and I knew exactly where it was supposed to go and why they wanted it there. And so I glued the little crystal in, and that's where the fairy gift went. And I love the way this turned out. If you want to invite fairies into your home, one way is by making a fairy door and honoring it to them, and then asking them if they will come and live with you. There are many different ways to get fairies to come and live with you. And there are lots of warnings that come along with that too, because there can be some mischief, but it's worth it. If you want to know more about the fairies, I will be posting on the solstice and the full moon, and it is all dedicated to the fairies. So please like and subscribe and follow me, and you can learn all the do's and don'ts of having fairies live in your home.